Hey friends, it's Becky from Sustainable Prepping, and today I want to talk about 5 emergency preparedness items that you should be stocking before the election. Now, it is currently October of 2020, and the world has faced an unprecedented pandemic, as well as the United States having perhaps one of the most unstable U.S. election cycles in its history. Regardless of your politics, the U.S. election this November is likely going to have a fallout that affects you. It's going to result in protests and potential riots, a rise in police force used against those protesters. We're seeing white nationalist terrorist groups that are trying to kidnap US politicians, and we're basically seeing a breakdown in some of our civil society. Now, I don't want you to be afraid, right? I do think that the US civil society is strong enough to withstand even these tests on the election, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be prepared for some disruption of your normal day-to-day life. So I want to give you 5 things that you should be stocking in order to be prepared just in case there's a disruption because of the United States election. It's likely that this election will not be able to be announced immediately within 12 or even 24 hours after the polls close because so many absentee ballots have been cast. So it is important to recognize it could take up to a week to definitely count who is going to be the president. And because of that, that week or even the whole month of November could see major disruptions to food supplies and medical supplies and people being able to drive through major cities if you live in a big city. So keeping all of that in mind, my suggestion to you is to begin to plan for a 1-month lockdown at home. Now, this will serve you well in this sort of pandemic world that we're living in at the time of this filming, but it will also serve you well to have a month of supplies in your home. I think that is something we should all keep as standard, so that way if any emergency arises, particularly as we roll into the winter months of 2020 and 2021, that you have a nice backup that gives you some padding and makes it so that you will be able to kind of ride out any storms or other disruptions without worry or stress. What we want here at Sustainable Prepping is calm confidence in the midst of crazy situations, right? This is fear-free emergency preparedness, and being fear-free means being calm and confident. So here's number 1, water. I've said it before. I'm gonna say it again. You should have water. Water, water, water. Because here's the deal. Humans can only live for 3 days without water. And one of the #1 killers of children under 5 in the world is contaminated drinking water. Diarrhea kills more people than lots of other diseases, but we don't think about it here in the United States because we have a fairly robust water treatment system, and most people in the United States have clean drinking water that they can just turn on from the tap. Now, that's not true everywhere. Flint, Michigan is a huge example of what happens when this breaks down, but most places in the US have clean drinking water. We take it for granted, but we absolutely need it to survive. If there is a major disruption, whether that is there's something wrong with your particular water treatment facility and workers can't get in to fix it, or there's massive storms that cause an overflow that contaminates the water supply, or whatever you could think of a scenario, it's important that you have water at home. Now, FEMA suggests for those who are doing hurricane prep to have 10 days of water stocked in your home. 10 days of water and other supplies. I think this is a really good rule of thumb. Now, I think 7 to 10 days should be the aim of every average middle-class American family. This is doable financially, it's doable for most people space-wise, and I think it's a really good benchmark to get to. When you're thinking about water storage, just remember that it's 1 gallon per person per day. That means that a family of 4 would need 28 gallons for a week, and I would just argue round that up to 30 to give yourself some padding. You can do this by getting jugs of water, like the big gallon jugs of water. You can get it by doing individual bottles of water in those big flats. You just gotta calculate how many gallons are there. Those are very useful. Create a lot of mess, but they're very useful. You can do the 5-gallon water cooler jugs. Those are incredibly handy. Or you can even get the big camp style, like you fill it yourself jugs. You can get them at camping supplies store, Walmart, and some hardware stores. And these can come in anywhere from 3 to 5 to even 7 or more gallons. Remember that water gets heavy, so you want to be able to move your water so you can actually use it. Now, if you have a really big family, I have a really big family, I've got 4 kids, we actually have a 55-gallon drum because we need a lot of water to get through 7 to 10 days. For us to have 10 days of water, we need 60 gallons. So we do have a 55-gallon drum, and that's one of the ways that we are making sure we have water storage, but it's not the most efficient, and it certainly should not be your first move. I definitely think having a mix of small water bottles as well as the 3, 5, or 7-gallon water jugs is the great place to get started. You can do it fairly cheaply, and you can get it accomplished definitely before the election. Also, when you're storing your water, don't forget to add in for your pets, your dogs, cats, birds, rabbits, whatever you have. And if you have farm animals, you definitely want to make sure you have water for them, and that will take on, a whole different storage level. But don't forget to include your pets. Now, most pets don't actually need a whole gallon per day. I like to just go ahead and calculate that as about a gallon, or if you're talking about cats, maybe half a gallon, because then whatever they don't use, right, becomes extra padding on your water supply for your people who may end up needing more, or if something gets spilled, you have a little extra. So just remember to include your pets into your water calculation. Right, the second thing that you absolutely should be doing before the election is to see if you can get a backup supply of your medications. Now, not everybody has a medication that they're going to be able to get a month backup supply on, but you should at least try. Schedule a conversation with your doctor, schedule a conversation with your insurer, particularly if you are on blood pressure medication, heart medications, things like that that you absolutely need to survive. Go ahead and have a conversation to see if you can get a 30 or even 90-day backup supply script. Some insurers are actually fine with this, and I have heard, although I haven't tested this myself because I'm on no standard medications at this point, but I've heard that there are some insurance companies and doctors that are actually proactively encouraging their patients to get on these medications and to have their backup supply, particularly if they're not controlled. It's different if it's a controlled medication, because it means that there's not going to be a panic at pharmacies should there be another lockdown, should there be any kind of disruption to services. Go ahead and have a conversation with your doctor. Go ahead and make a plan for storing that medication, particularly if it's something that needs to be refrigerated. I know that insulin has to be refrigerated, so have a conversation with your doctor. Research how much you can reasonably store ahead, and if it's possible for you to buy a week ahead, right? 2 weeks ahead. I'm not diabetic, so I don't know what that would look like, but have that conversation with your healthcare provider, with your insurer. We're seeing a slight shift, not a whole shift, but we're seeing a slight shift where more and more insurers and medical providers are okay with providing non-controlled medications early. Remember that controlled medications, which tend to be things like pain medications, are controlled for a reason, and have a plan in place if you can't get access to those medications, or if you have to ration those medications. It's not something that we want to think about, but it's better to have taken this time before the election and any resulting disruptions occur to have a plan in place. The third thing you should stock up on is a month's worth of food. Now, I know that I've talked about this before, and it might seem totally overwhelming to plan for a month's worth of food, but never fear, I have got you. In 2 weeks, I'm going to be offering an online workshop. It's going to be 2 hours, and I'm going to go through everything you need to do to get all of your food storage done in 1 weekend. 1 month of food done in 1 weekend. I know it sounds crazy. I'm going to have this ready for you. I don't know where I'm going to find the time to do it, but I'm going to bring it to you because I care and because I want you all to be prepared for the potential disruption that this election could bring. I want you to be prepared for winter. I want you to be prepared for any emergency that we can't even think about yet that's coming down the pike. Once you have it, then you have it. Now, this is not long-term 50-year storage stuff. No, we're talking about usable foods that you can rotate. You can get the storage in place. If you need to crack into it because you need it, you can do that and then just replace it. It is designed to be used, designed to be easily implemented. That's going to be on Friday, October 23rd. I'm going to have all the details down in the description, and I'm going to be giving you more information. Follow me over on Instagram at The Working Writer Mom. I'll have the info down below, and I'll be making more announcements there. I'll also be doing some live streams and stories and things like that, so you have all the info. In the meantime, before I do that, you should still be working on your food storage, and you can do that by doing an inventory of what you have in your pantry. You can be doing an inventory of what you have in your freezer. Go dig out the crap that's at the back of your freezer, and if you're not going to eat it, throw it away so you can fill it with stuff you'll eat. And then start looking at meal plans. Get a meal plan idea together. Think of a couple of breakfasts, 2 or 3 breakfasts that you would want to eat over and over again for a month. Think of a couple of lunches that you'd want to eat over and over again for a month. Think of a couple of dinners that you'd want to eat over and over again for a month. And then just start adding those things to your shelves, adding those pieces to your shelves. Like I said, if you want a full and comprehensive meal plan program, I will have my 1 month of food storage in 1 weekend program, food storage in a weekend, is going to be coming to you on October 23rd. But if you can't make it to that, or you want to do it on your own, just start with an inventory, start with a meal plan, write out every ingredient you need. Don't forget salt, don't forget spices, and then start buying those items and having them on your shelves. If you don't have enough shelf space in your pantry to have that month's supply, get a Tupperware, like a big Rubbermaid container, and put it all in there and stick it under your bed. You can do it. You're allowed. I give you permission. But have it, because you don't want to have to go to the store. You don't want to have to go out to the store if you don't have to. Number 4 is to fill in all the gaps in your first aid kit. Do an inventory. I've said this before. I'm going to keep saying it. Do an inventory. You might think that you have a box of Band-Aids and that box might have 2 Band-Aids in it, but you want to make sure that you have all of the major first aid supplies that you could need. Now, I'm not saying get a suture kit. I am not saying go get a gunshot wound kit. I am not saying go and get, an EpiPen if no one in your family needs an EpiPen. What I am saying is make sure you have disinfectant, make sure you have Neosporin, make sure you have Band-Aids in lots of sizes, make sure you have gauze and tape and gloves so you can handle a wound, make sure you've got some skin glue, right, in case you get the kind of cut that needs. Make sure that you have everything you need to take care of most minor cuts, bruises, and burns at home, so you're not having to go to an ER, which may be overtaxed in the month following the election, from people who have been out at protests, from people who have been faced with increasing police force, with people who maybe have not planned ahead and are suffering from who knows what, right? The less people in an ER, the less stress on that ER, and the better care the people there who have to be there are going to get. Also, make sure you have things like rehydration powder. This can be Gatorade or Powerade powder. I don't care. You can make your own if you want. Have some rehydration powder in case someone is sick with a stomach bug and they need more fluids. You want to replace those salts and electrolytes. Make sure that you have an anti-nausea and an anti-diarrheal in case someone gets sick with some kind of upset and you don't want to have to take them in to get a saline drip. Make sure also you have the opposite of an anti-diarrheal, right, in case someone gets a little stopped up from eating a little too much meat and cheese at the holidays, you know what I'm saying? Have those things in place. And if you have kids, have kid versions of those things in place. You want to try to stay home as much as possible if there's a disruption to life outside. All right, my 5th and final recommendation is to go ahead and get a cooking alternative plan in place and then buy whatever you need for it. So this could be something as simple as getting a camp stove, one of the ones that has butane attached. The Coleman stove is pretty standard. This could mean making sure you have propane for your grill, because even though it's cold outside, you're gonna grill if your power goes out. This could mean getting a camp stove. Now, we personally have the EcoZoom. I love my EcoZoom rocket stove. It's fantastic. You can make a rocket stove out of a coffee can. Whatever you decide to do, go ahead and do it. Don't put it off. If you have a charcoal grill and that's what you're going to grill on if the power goes out, do you have charcoal? You should have charcoal. Do you have a fireplace and you're going to use your fireplace as heating and cooking in case your power goes out? Well, you better have some logs, and they can't be wet. You don't want wet logs, and you don't want green logs, and you don't want pulpy logs, so get all that together. Do you have a pellet stove? Great. Do you have pellets? Right? Make sure that whatever your cooking alternative and consequently your heating alternative for your home is, you have what you need to make it work. If a storm comes to your town, which is not impossible in the month of November, and knocks out your power lines, if there's already some distress happening in your community, it could be days and days before that power is restored. So make sure that you have an alternative cooking and heating option planned out. The point is that we want to make sure that we have all the different elements we need for the majority of things that could go wrong, and that we're comfortable with them. Again, this fear-free approach to emergency preparedness allows us to be calm and confident in the event of a disaster. And if there's a whole lot of riots happening around you and you can't go out to the grocery store, but you also don't have any electricity to heat up your boxed mac and cheese, you'll be so glad that you have this alternative already planned for. Right, y'all, so comment down below and let me know what you are going to be doing to prepare for the election and any possible disruptions. Again, I want to say one more time that this is about calm and confidence in the midst of a crisis. And while we don't know that it's going to be a crisis, we should plan like it is, because all the news is telling me that regardless of who wins, and I have strong opinions on who I want, regardless of who that is, it's going to be crazy town. Don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to this channel. This lets me know that you want to hear more of fear-free emergency preparedness. You can also check me out at sustainableprepping.com and learn more about food storage in a weekend. I hope you're all doing really well, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.